Hey everyone, welcome to Ian and Friends. We are here in beautiful Como at the finish line of Lombardia. I am FloBikes senior editor Ian Dille.
And I am Michael Sheehan, Ian's friend. Yeah, we just saw the final monument of the year, second to last World Tour race. Yeah, let's start it off. Long day in the saddle. Not too much to speak of early on. An 8-rider breakaway got up the road, but it was really over the Ghisallo climb going into the Muro di Sormano that we saw the action heat up.
Yeah, and these are just beautiful, iconic climbs in the sport. We went out and rode these on Thursday. Watch our preview show to check that out. But you know, this is really one of the homes of cycling. You know, you top the Ghisallo climb, you go past the chapel dedicated to cyclists, and then they come to the Muro di Sormano, and it is just a monster of a climb. And this is really, you know, fun for us as fans, where the action kicked off a long ways from the finish. Primoz Roglic lit out, just pushing a massive gear up this wall of a climb, pitches, you know, over 25%, 12% average gradient for almost 2 kilometers.
Yeah, if you want to see just some pure unadulterated suffering from the best cyclist in the world, just watch this climb of the Sormano. It was awful. Roglic, he did hit off really early, and one risk that you take when you go early on the Sormano is the steep pitches come about halfway up the climb, if not a little bit more. So if you overextend yourself early on, you are going to be in trouble. Amazingly, Roglic, he managed to really stay in good position going over the top, but it was Thibaut Pinot and Vincenzo Nibali who really capitalized on Roglic's move. They sprung up to him and passed him over the top and made for a really thrilling descent, very similar to what we saw last year. Thibaut Pinot and Nibali once again descending the roads of Lombardia together.
Yeah, I was shocked that they not only went across to Roglic, but then just went right through him, came over the top of the Sormano with quite a gap. And this climb, again, is, you know, one of these sort of conflicted places in the sport, just lines with fans. You know, we met a lot of people here in Italy who were, you know, this is where they go to watch the race. And unfortunately, we saw Romain Bardet run into a fan again. You know, I mean, for me, they can't have barriers on this climb. I mean, watching them come through the crowds like that is just so beautiful, but at the same time, you hate to see someone like Bardet, you know, second at Worlds, you know, definitely a contender for this race, have an issue like that.
But the climb is so hard. All these riders are just completely at their max, and Bardet had already been dropped at the point that he did come into contact with a fan. And this was just the image of a cyclist cross-eyed. You know, I think that if Bardet had not just gone up the Sormano, he would have had a little bit more wits to probably swerve around the fan. Who's at fault? Obviously the fan. Should not be putting his camera anywhere near the cyclist. So unfortunate to see, but you know, this was just a combination situation of a really tired, cracking cyclist too close to the fans. We saw cars, the race cars even, just pinching off the narrow top of the climb even more so. And then, yeah, more drama on the descent. We saw Nibali maybe getting a little bit carried away on the first turns of this descent, and he does something that we see constantly in descents when riders go down, and some of the most experienced World Tour riders, like we saw Nibali do this. They come out of a turn and are too eager to get back on the gas, and they start to pedal, which unweights their back wheel and just causes them to slip. Nibali, amazing bike handler, he managed to save it, but the second you unweight your outside wheel, you lose a bit of traction, and you just have to be so careful on a descent like this. Tell me a little bit about the roads going down it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I want to rewind also just kind of to set the stage to last year, because you know, the action really played out on the Civiglio last year with Nibali and Thibaut Pinot, and you know, Pinot couldn't hold Nibali's wheel on the descent, and you know, Nibali was just railing the descent. It seemed like he was maybe trying to get rid of Pinot or take the lead on this descent, but Pinot, kudos to him, was having none of it. Even went to the front after you know, Nibali overshot that turn. And yeah, this descent is as crazy as it looks on TV. I mean, these are tight turns, rough pavement, and it goes on forever. You know, this climb, the Sermano, goes up one side to the very peak of the mountain, comes down the other side, and yeah, I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
And one thing that people don't really realize is that this descent can even be a little bit more treacherous if it's dry outside, because you're going through this really kind of damp, densely wooded area where random patches of water will just linger when it's shady out. So yeah, you may have a super dry road, really fast run on one stretch, you go around a corner and all of a sudden it's like it's been raining. So treacherous descent. Roglic, he managed to show us his ski jumping skills, bombed the descent, got back up to the group, and really the sensation of this section of the race was Egan Bernal. He came out of nowhere, and this was huge for me, seeing Bernal bridge from the group behind to the leaders on the descent. This is a rider that we've seen obviously just blowing people away on the climbs. His pedigree going uphill is, yeah, nobody's questioning it at this point. But seeing him come through a season where he's had a lot of really nasty crashes and be able to mentally compartmentalize that and show us what he can do going downhill without a care in the world about hitting the deck multiple times this year, that showed a lot of maturity and a really well-rounded bike racer that we're going to see more of.
Yeah, when I saw Bernal crash at San Sebastian, I thought his career might be over, not just his season. So to see him come back, not only come back to racing at the end of the season, but come back with the form that he has is just phenomenal. You know, let's set the stage again. You know, Group 4 up the road. Behind you have Valverde. You have, you know, 3 really strong riders from EF Education First, who we've been talking about a lot, Michael Woods, Rigoberto Urán, and, you know, their domestique hero of the day, Martinez, goes to the front and is, you know, pulling back, you know, almost a 40-second gap. Woods is going up the road with Dylan Teuns, a lot of action, riders all over the place, and then they hit this final climb, the Civiglio. We rode this the other day. It's just a wall of a climb. It goes up the side of the, straight up the side of a mountain for a long ways, and Pinot got his payback on Nibali. I mean, he was relishing in this almost, like, I felt.
Yeah, Pinot, from the Sermano, really, we could tell that Pinot had legs and he did not want to go anywhere near the finish with Vincenzo Nibali. Pinot attacked straight onto the Civiglio and really just kept attacking until eventually Nibali cracked. I think that Pinot, obviously, he said in the post-race interview he's on the form of his life. He already got a win earlier this week, and Nibali has been battling back from injury. So yeah, Pinot just capitalized, kept attacking, went into the descent with a healthy, probably 20-second gap, and held it, if not extended.
Yeah, and you know, the thing that also really impresses me about Pinot is, for as well as he's been riding this year, he's also had huge struggles, you know, not only to come back from the disappointment of how he lost and lost a podium position at Lombardia last year, but then also, you know, this is a guy that fell out of the Giro d'Italia after he was sitting in the podium with one stage to go. So to see him, you know, come back from that disappointment earlier in the year and have this run of form right at the end of the year at the, you know, biggest race at the end of the year is super impressive. And I also want to point out, he is entering the pantheon of French riders who make amazing facial expressions. His facial expressions were right up there with Boyclair. I was really impressed, and to do that and just show how much you're suffering, agonizing, and then win the race so handedly, yeah, just phenomenal riding by him.
Yeah, and you know, we have to give credit where credit's due. Vincenzo Nibali, he fought until the very end. He ended up getting caught by the chasers and seized his opportunity right then, attacked again, and yeah, he managed to stay away after getting caught to get second place. That was an amazing fight of a ride. We talked to EF after the race, and it was really not their day. We mentioned Danny Martinez. He's really the unsung hero of the race. They were in a tough position after the Civiglio descent. Rigoberto Urán, he got caught behind a crash going up the Sermano. Mike Woods was also just jockeyed out of position, so they had to chase. Danny Martinez did a phenomenal job. We're going to see a lot more of them. And yeah, a race that Mike Woods really thought that he could have won. He ended up having a mechanical on the final descent of the day, which took him out of the race. But action-packed race.
Yeah, what a race to end the season. And we will be back with another edition of Ian and Friends, and we'll probably be talking about cyclocross.
Tis the season. Thanks for joining.
We'll see you then.